There's an old saying that goes, what you laugh at today might become your reality tomorrow, and nowhere is this more painfully evident than in the unfolding drama surrounding Pearl Watts and Maurice Sam. Have you ever watched someone dig their own grave so enthusiastically that you almost want to hand them a bigger shovel? That's exactly what's happening right now in the most public, most cringeworthy display of insecurity the Nollywood industry has witnessed in recent memory. This isn't just about a relationship gone wrong or typical celebrity drama. This is about obsession masquerading as love, control disguised as devotion, and the spectacular way karma has a habit of coming back around when you least expect it. What makes this situation particularly fascinating, and honestly a bit tragic, is that Pearl Watts once stood on a high horse, throwing shade and mockery at someone else for allegedly doing exactly what she's now being accused of doing, except 10 times worse. The irony isn't just thick, it's practically suffocating, and the internet is watching every uncomfortable moment unfold in real time. Let's start with a fundamental truth that apparently needs repeating until everyone gets it tattooed somewhere visible. You cannot possess love by force, no matter how hard you try, how loud you shout, or how many social media posts you make declaring your undying devotion. Genuine love, the kind that actually lasts and means something, flows naturally like water finding its path downhill. It doesn't need to be forced, demanded, monitored, or controlled. It exists in a space of mutual respect, trust, and freedom, not surveillance and suspicion. When you find yourself constantly trying to prove that love exists, constantly needing to announce it to the world, constantly fighting off perceived threats and imagined rivals, that's not love anymore. That's insecurity wearing a love costume, and the disguise is usually pretty transparent to everyone except the person wearing it. Real confidence in a relationship is quiet. It doesn't need to perform for an audience or justify itself constantly. It simply exists, secure in its own foundation, unbothered by every person who walks past or every colleague who shares a laugh. But insecurity. Insecurity is loud, frantic, and exhausting to watch, and it always shows through no matter how hard someone tries to mask it as strength or devotion. Pearl Watts has allegedly been displaying behavior that goes far beyond normal relationship concerns and has ventured deep into territory that can only be described as obsessive and controlling. According to multiple sources and observers within the industry, she's been acting increasingly possessive around Maurice Sam, monitoring his every move with the intensity of a security guard protecting national secrets. We're not talking about casual interest in your partner's day or normal curiosity about their work. We are talking about allegedly showing up uninvited to movie sets where she has no professional reason to be, watching who talks to Maurice, who sits near him during breaks, who laughs at his jokes, and who dares to have friendly, professional interactions with him. This isn't love or care, this is surveillance. This is treating a grown adult like he's incapable of having normal human interactions without someone standing guard. The behavior has allegedly escalated to the point where other actresses on set feel uncomfortable, crew members notice the tension, and Maurice himself appears increasingly stifled by the constant monitoring. When your presence in your partner's professional space creates discomfort for everyone around them, when colleagues start walking on eggshells to avoid triggering jealous reactions, that's a massive red flag waving so violently it could generate electricity. The alleged drama has expanded to include other actresses in what can only be described as a tour of baseless accusations and manufactured conflicts. Pearl has reportedly been dragging names like Serian Martins and Chioma Awoha into her spiral of insecurity, apparently viewing every woman Maurice works with as a potential threat that needs to be neutralized or publicly called out. Think about how exhausting that must be, not just for Maurice and the women being dragged into this mess, but for Pearl herself. Imagine living in a constant state of suspicion and fear, seeing enemies and rivals in every friendly conversation, interpreting professional chemistry as personal betrayal, and feeling compelled to mark your territory like you're dealing with property rather than a human relationship. This kind of behavior doesn't strengthen a relationship, it suffocates it. It creates resentment, embarrassment, and eventually drives away the very person you're so desperately trying to hold on to. The other actresses caught in this crossfire are simply trying to do their jobs, deliver their performances, and maintain professional relationships with their colleagues. They didn't sign up to be cast as villains in someone else's insecurity drama, yet here they are, dealing with shade, subtweets, and allegedly being monitored like suspects in a crime they didn't commit. What makes this situation even more cringeworthy is the social media component, because of course there's a social media component. Pearl has allegedly been posting cryptic, defensive messages that are clearly directed at critics and perceived threats, messages that ironically reveal the exact insecurity they are meant to deny. Posts declaring, "Nobody can separate us," or "I'm unbothered," or variations of "We are stronger than ever," are classic tells. When someone is genuinely secure and unbothered, they don't need to constantly announce it to the world. They are too busy actually being unbothered to post about being unbothered. It's like someone insisting they are not angry while clearly fuming, or claiming they don't care while writing a 1,000-word essay about exactly how much they don't care. These defensive posts are digital screams of insecurity, and everyone can see right through them. The more someone posts about how solid their relationship is, the more observers start to wonder if they are trying to convince others or convince themselves. Social media has become a stage where people perform the relationship they wish they had rather than the relationship that actually exists, and these performances are usually pretty transparent to everyone watching from the audience. The trajectory of Pearl's public image has taken a nosedive from whatever grace she once had straight into a pit of embarrassment and lost credibility. Fans who once supported her are now side-eyeing her behavior with concern and second-hand embarrassment. Industry insiders who might have considered her for project are now witnessing behavior that raises serious questions about professionalism and stability. When you become known not for your talent, your work, or your achievements, but for your chaotic relationship drama and obsessive behavior, you've essentially branded yourself in the worst possible way. The entertainment industry is full of talented people who are also drama-free, so why would producers and directors choose to work with someone who brings unnecessary conflict and tension to every set? Pearl's actions aren't just affecting her relationship with Maurice, they're potentially damaging her career, her reputation, and her standing within an industry that loves gossip and has a long memory. People are beginning to describe her as insecure, desperate, and chaotic, which are exactly the adjectives no one wants associated with their public persona. The most painful part is that this damage is entirely self-inflicted, the direct result of choices and behaviors that could have been avoided with a bit of self-awareness and emotional maturity. Here's where the calmer portion of our story gets really juicy and really poetic. Before Pearl found herself drowning in her own insecurity drama, she allegedly spent considerable time and energy mocking someone else for supposedly doing similar things. That someone was Sonia Uche, who was accused by Pearl of being jealous, desperate, and overly interested in Maurice Sam. Pearl allegedly threw shade, made snide comments, and laughed at Sonia's supposed desperation to get Maurice's attention. The accusations were public enough that people noticed, and the mockery was harsh enough that it hurt. Pearl essentially positioned herself as the confident winner who had nothing to worry about, while painting Sonia as the pathetic loser chasing after something she couldn't have. It was mean-spirited, unnecessary, and as it turns out, wildly hypocritical. The universe has a spectacular sense of humor, because now Pearl is experiencing the exact same criticism she once lobbed at Sonia, except the evidence of Pearl's obsessive behavior seems far more substantial and public than anything Sonia was ever accused of. The woman who once laughed at someone else's alleged desperation is now the poster child for desperate, possessive behavior, and the internet's memory is long enough to remember her previous mockery. The most striking contrast in this entire saga is how Sonia Uche has handled herself throughout all of it. When Pearl was allegedly throwing shade and accusations, when rumors were swirling and people were talking, Sonia didn't engage. She didn't post cryptic messages. She didn't drag Pearl publicly. She didn't create drama on movie sets or follow anyone around demanding explanations. She simply stayed silent, focused on her work, and carried herself with grace and dignity. Silence, it turns out, can be the loudest and most powerful response of all. While Pearl was busy making noise and creating chaos, Sonia was quietly building her career, improving her craft, and maintaining her reputation as a professional who doesn't bring personal drama into workspaces. Time has a way of revealing truth, and in this case, time has completely vindicated Sonia. She's now seen as the mature one, the classy one, the woman who took the high road even when someone else was trying to drag her through the mud. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was strength and wisdom, the understanding that some battles aren't worth fighting because the other person will eventually defeat themselves without any help from you. The comparison between how these two women have handled public scrutiny and relationship drama is like a masterclass in what to do versus what not to do. Sonia demonstrated that when people try to drag you into their chaos, you don't have to accept the invitation. You can simply step aside and let them exhaust themselves fighting shadows while you continue building something real and valuable. She proved that dignity and grace under pressure are far more powerful than clapping back, that silence can be more devastating than any comeback, and that time really does have a way of exposing truth and rewarding patience. Meanwhile, Paul has unintentionally demonstrated how insecurity destroys everything it touches, how obsession pushes people away instead of bringing them closer, how loud proclamations of confidence often signal the exact opposite, and how mocking others for flaws you possess yourself is a recipe for karmic comeuppance. The two paths couldn't be more different, and the results couldn't be more clear. One woman's reputation has grown stronger through adversity, while the other's has crumbled under the weight of her own actions. There's a deeper lesson here about the nature of jealousy and insecurity that goes beyond celebrity gossip. Jealousy is like smoke in that it might seem invisible at first, but it always finds a way to seep through cracks, reveal itself, and make its presence known. You can try to hide it, dress it up as concern or devotion, justify it as protection or care, but eventually, it shows its true face. Jealousy transforms love into something ugly and suffocating. It turns partnership into possession, affection into control, and trust into surveillance. When a relationship reaches the point where one person needs to monitor the other's every interaction, when professional colleagues become perceived threats, when innocent conversations are treated as betrayals, that relationship has already lost what made it worth having in the first place. Real love doesn't feel like a prison where someone's watching your every move. It feels like freedom, trust, and security in the knowledge that you're chosen every day not because someone is forced or monitored into staying, but because they genuinely want to be there. The moment love turns into competition or control, the moment you're fighting to keep someone rather than simply being with them, it stops being love and becomes something else entirely, something exhausting and ultimately doomed to fail. Pearl's situation also highlights how obsession and desperation create the exact outcome they are trying to prevent. When you cling too tightly to something, whether it's a person, a relationship, or a particular outcome, you inevitably crush it or push it away. It's like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. Maurice, assuming he's a rational adult with normal human needs for space and respect, is probably feeling suffocated by this level of intensity and control. No one wants to be in a relationship where they can't have normal professional interactions, where every conversation is monitored, where their partner's insecurity becomes a constant third presence demanding attention and reassurance. This kind of behavior doesn't make someone want to stay, it makes them want to run, and fast. The irony is devastating. Pearl's desperate attempts to hold onto Maurice and prevent him from connecting with other women are likely the exact behaviors that would drive him away if they haven't already. She's creating the reality she fears most through her attempts to prevent it, a self-fulfilling prophecy playing out in slow motion for everyone to witness. The public nature of this drama has also stripped away any pretense or privacy that might have allowed for damage control or quiet resolution. When your relationship problems play out on social media, on movie sets with witnesses, and in industry gossip that spreads faster than wildfire, there's no taking it back. Every cryptic post, every possessive behavior, every public display of insecurity becomes part of your permanent record, archived in screenshots and memories. Pearl's reputation has shifted from whatever it was before to this current image of chaos and desperation, and reputations are far harder to rebuild than they are to destroy. The entertainment industry, like most industries, values professionalism, stability, and people who don't create unnecessary drama. When producers are casting their next project or directors are assembling their crew, they're going to remember who brought peace and who brought chaos. They're going to remember who focused on the work and who was too busy monitoring their boyfriend to focus on their own career. These things matter, perhaps more than Pearl realized when she started down this path. Your behavior today shapes your opportunities tomorrow, and right now, those opportunities are likely shrinking in response to behavior that raises red flags for anyone considering working with her. So what can we learn from this spectacular display of insecurity, karma, and the consequences of obsessive behavior? First, that peace of mind is worth infinitely more than online validation or winning some imagined competition for a person's attention. Second, that how you treat others, especially when you think you're winning, will absolutely come back to haunt you when circumstances change. Third, that silence and grace are often more powerful than any clapback or public confrontation. Fourth, that obsession destroys relationships far more effectively than any outside threat ever could. Fifth, That life really does have a way of exposing fake behavior and honoring those who remain calm and authentic through chaos. Pearl laughed at Sonia for allegedly being desperate and jealous, only to become the living embodiment of those exact qualities in a display so public and so intense that it makes whatever Sonia was accused of look like nothing. Meanwhile, Sonia's grace under pressure has elevated her reputation and proven her character. Time vindicates the innocent, exposes the hypocrites, and teaches lessons to anyone paying attention. The question now is whether Pearl will learn from this experience, recognize the destructive patterns in her behavior, and make changes before she loses everything she's desperately trying to hold on to. Or will she continue down this path until there's nothing left to fight for? Have you ever watched someone self-destruct through their own insecurity? Have you seen relationships destroyed by jealousy and control? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and remember that the tightest grip often produces the quickest escape. Stay secure in yourself, trust in genuine connection, and we'll catch you in the next story where drama meets karma and lessons get learned the hard way.